Hello and welcome back to the Remembering Tuscola webcast. I'm David Porter. I'm here with Mike Carroll and here to fact check Mike, our Bob Taylor and Alan Michener. We had to bring in two fact checkers just to keep up with all the fact checking that we need to do.
Now that you've said that, I'll tell you my joke for the week. It's a saying I love. Mark Twain said, "The older I get, the more clearly I can remember things that never happened."
There you go.
See?
You've done that well though all your life.
I'm just like Twain.
Just like Mark Twain.
We're all three class of 65, greatest class alive. And David, these two guys are going to agree with me.
Yeah.
Well,
Class
yeah, it takes three of them.
Speaking of the class of 65, I'd like to make a quick little announcement. Class of 65 is planning a mini reunion on August the 23rd at Blesser's Candy Kitchen. I don't know how I got involved, but undoubtedly I am. So
Well, you're the
I'm going to be. I'm going to be.
you're seen as the connection to Devon.
I guess. But anyway, I will. I just wanted to make that sort of announcement so maybe people will remember it. I'll send out an email to the class members 2 or 3 weeks before the event so I can get a final count, so I can give that to Devon for the meal count. And we're going to have that. We're going to have her building available. Which room we're in, I don't know at the time, but we're going to have the building available to us from 12 noon till 4 o'clock on August the 23rd.
Yeah, somebody else wants, some other class wants it after that.
Well, not now because I've got it covered. I've got it covered between 12 and 4. So,
hey Mitch, is that out of curiosity? Why do we pick that date versus homecoming or something?
well, I do not know. I don't know how that came up. Jim Wright was involved. Jim Wright, I think, is the one that sort of established that originally, the 23rd.
That's all you need to say.
Pardon?
That's all you need to say.
Yeah, but I think Jim's the one that came up with that date when he first talked about having that. Gail Reeder is going to be back from California at that time also.
I think doesn't that correspond with Jim's cabin visit?
Yeah,
Yes.
and then we're leaving. The 5 of us are leaving
Next day.
the next day to go to Wisconsin. So I think that's what
I
it was
imagine
all about.
it was the cabin thing, and I think Gail coming home was a big deal.
Yeah, well, he was here 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a great. Trotz was just one of the nicest guys in the world.
He still is. He still is.
Yeah, he has got a great sense of humor and just takes life. He seems to take life so easily, philosophically.
Yeah. He does.
It's always good to see Gail.
Yeah. We'll have fun. But anyway, thank you. I just wanted to
Well,
put
thank
that
you.
out so anybody watching the podcast might know what's going on.
Thanks for throwing that out. And I know guys like Ingo will want to stop in and see some
Oh, sure.
classmate, fellow people from the year above or behind can stop.
Right.
Yeah, Bill.
That's true. And I refer to it as a mini reunion because I have no idea. I know a lot of people have been coming back at homecoming time, and whether they will do both, I have no idea. And I really don't have any idea about numbers. I did early on. There was a lot of people said, "Yeah, I'll be there. But I'm going to wait." Devin says you give her a couple of weeks notice. She's got plenty of food.
I think
all that.
I think you may get 40 or 50, Mitch.
I would think so. I think we could get 40 or 50. That wouldn't surprise me.
That's really not a mini reunion.
No.
Well,
That's a many, M-A-N-Y.
M-A-N-Y.
Well, David, we had a big class and we're all closed and we'll all come.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, back in when we had our 50th reunion, we had a big crowd.
Yes.
So we're pretty fortunate that we still got a lot of us here.
Well, we had people. I mean, Kathy Rice flew back from California. Carnine flew in from Oregon.
Yeah.
Linda Matheny came
Yes.
back.
Right.
Yeah.
Little Linda.
Yeah.
Well, even Fortney came, and
Don Fortney.
I don't remember him coming to one.
Well, Don's never been to one that I know of. He came and he pulled up a car and he got out and he just looked at me and I looked at him and I thought, that guy looks familiar. We had a really good talk. And Don recently called me and I did some stuff for him. Just a nice guy. The funny thing is he married a girl about 4'11",
Oh, really?
And I think she runs the show.
Uh-huh.
Don's had a very successful business.
Yeah, he was insurance business, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he expanded out and he does insurance consulting for other insurance companies. I think his
Okay.
son, he said his son's doing more of it.
We should mention that Bill Englehart is absent today and will be back. And apparently, Bill has a life outside of the webcast. I wasn't
Well,
aware of those things.
Hard to believe.
Yeah.
Well, David, Lord knows you and I don't, because you and I have never missed one in 7 years.
Right.
David said this is his social life right here.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Yeah.
And it's close to my social life. So yeah, we take it seriously. Don, by the way, just to toot his horn, went out to, was it Regis in Colorado?
Yes.
Yes.
Got their scoring records. He wound up being All-American a couple of years. He got a tryout for the 68 Olympics, and he also got a tryout with the Chicago Bulls. And so Don really had quite a good basketball.
Yeah.
Pretty famous.
That's pretty good.
One more reason, class of 65, greatest class alive.
Yeah.
Class of 83 is the class you want to be.
Caldwell, Norton, Nancy,
So,
Professor at Princeton. David, I'm sorry, you're top three. 83 is top three.
so what's Becky doing under the table there, Mike?
I'm scratching my back on the back of this chair. My back itches all the time. You know, somebody can make a hell of a living going around scratching people's back. You know,
You're gonna have to get one of those extended arms. I've got a couple of those.
They're
I've
straight.
got one right there, and I've got one in my bedroom.
Yeah.
Oh, they're straight.
Speaking of scratching your back, Mike,
You
that
can't.
article in the News Gazette was classic.
Oh yeah, Megan. I'm serious about this. Nurses would walk in and said, "Scratch my back." Said, we got you on 14 on oxygen. We're trying to keep you alive. I said, my back's killing me. That's what I'm talking about with my back. That's true. Did you see Sharon's funny comment about
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sharon's quite a gal, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yes, she is.
Is she going up to the camp this time with you?
We're trying to get her
We've been
to.
trying to get her, but I don't know.
You guys
I
need
don't
a
know.
nurse up. You need a nurse up there.
We
No,
think we
need a
do.
maid.
Yeah, we need a nurse and a maid. you
Oh
know,
no,
so
no, I don't. She's not going to maid for you, but she'll
Yeah.
be there with medical
But
advice.
we're all getting up there in years, so we
Sure.
need some kind of medical assistance.
Well, you better make sure there's a hospital nearby, ambulance service.
There's nothing nearby that place. Let me tell you.
So if you have a heart attack, kiss it goodbye.
It's possible. Well, I think we could get probably there in a half an hour. We might get to something decent.
You
I
know,
can't remember the name of the town. What's that?
Spooner.
Spooner, Wisconsin is the closest town. It's probably
The one thing we've all agreed to, though, is we're not giving each other CPR.
No mouth to mouth.
no mouth to mouth. No.
No, not a chance.
Well, you got Shuey and you got Jim Wright, and they're both, I think, EMTs maybe or whatever. So that helps.
Well,
Today's
which one would you choose to give you mouth to mouth if you had to?
I don't know.
all right. This week's pictures are the envelope said 1985.
Oh, I don't know anybody from then, but go ahead.
Well, you're in a couple of them.
Oh my God. Oh, I'll look at the barn.
Wow.
Yeah.
85.
Don't know.
Well,
Nope.
Carol Hausman says Kim question mark.
Oh, Kim question mark. Yeah, our brother was Bob question mark.
Yeah. It's so I don't know. That's all I've got on that. Now this is a building, Mike.
You might know that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was born here. Actually, I was born in the older part.
that's the new high school.
New gymnasium. Now.
We were
I
class
said I was born here, not conceived here.
Class of 65 was right there when this started, when Doc Deaver, the number one person that probably got killed in a car wreck that summer.
Yep.
The old Jarman Hospital still there, different color.
Yeah, it was a good building.
Some of these are a little fuzzy because they're 35 millimeter and they just don't scan very well.
You say this was,
Is that Harold Zane?
no, I don't think
no.
so. That lady looks like Mike Rogers' mother.
Oh, you're right. A little bit.
Tina Rogers Hausman says it's Elmer and Lorene Rogers.
I'll be darned. Good one, Mitch.
Okay, well, I didn't recognize him. I only met him once or twice.
Yeah. You know,
But
Mike Rogers grew up in Koshkanon, Missouri.
Yeah.
He went back for his 40th reunion, and he said they met around a dining room table, 6 of them.
Yeah. He lives I remember him talking about living down there, and I said, well, that's pretty close to Blue Eye, Missouri. And he said, yeah, not very far away.
Yeah, he was back in the woods.
Apparently in 1985, we were still wearing socks over our calves with stripes on them.
Yeah.
Those I was still wearing those up into the 90s until I got married and my wife was making fun of me.
Well,
That's
that
Dick Berg.
Dick Berg on the left?
Yeah, it is.
That's not
Sue Snyder.
Snyder, Sue Snyder.
Yeah.
And the other girl, is that a Meyer?
Nope, I don't think so. Not according to our internet sleuths. She did another picture later where you can tell a little bit more, but that's Linda Hines Wirtz.
Okay.
Lived there on Main Street.
Thought it might have been McGillen.
Her brother Paul was in my class. I think she was a twin, wasn't she?
Yeah.
That's
Or-
Jerry Hines' kids.
I think so. I think that was the dad's name.
Yeah. They lived out in Southland Acres. Jerry worked at the plant, and then later he worked for me
Well, when
after he retired.
in grade school, I know they lived on Main Street. They may have moved at some point, but
Didn't they live in a house just north of where Scott Kibler's at now?
Yeah.
That's another Hines. Is it the same Hines or different Hines?
I think it was. I was trying to think because it was not on a corner.
2-story tan house, middle of the block.
Two-story house.
Yeah, that was the house. Somebody else lived there too.
Kim Higgins lives there now.
But there was a Hines there in the.
Well, that I don't know if that was Jerry. Well, that could have been Jerry.
If there's 2 Hines families in town, I don't know.
I don't know either.
No, I don't either.
Not aware of two.
Yeah.
Nope.
No.
Well, some of these are out of town. There's something going on at the park, and people had relatives in. So Tina Rogers Hausman says that's Gabe and Shauna Ferreria, cousins of Christy Rogers Bianco and Tina Rogers Hausman, visiting from California.
Okay.
Oh, we should have known that.
You should have known that.
Yeah.
Who's keeping score this week?
I see Mary Kay.
Is that Snyder in the back?
Yeah.
Dave Snyder in the back, Mary Kay Kalmar on the left in the back.
Bump Snyder, or Bump Ferguson in the front.
Looks like either Bumper or Fritz.
I don't think it's Bumper.
Hey,
or
Bumper
Fritz because
graduated in 83 or 4
yeah, this
Oh,
was
okay.
well.
or 5.
Fritz and Bumper are younger than me, but in '85, this kid would be too young for either one of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember Bumper giving I think it was 84. He gave the valedictorian speech at graduation. I was there. And he says, as we go through life and get older, it will become increasingly problematic to return to our youth. And I wanted to say, no shit, Sherlock.
Yeah. That's not Daimler, is it?
No.
No.
That probably it could be Berg again.
No, that's
Berg's the second one.
Berg might be the second one, but that looks like
Oh, there.
I don't
This
think
is the one I was talking
Yeah.
about.
I think Mike had more hair in that in 85, but I don't know.
and then Sue Snyder.
Yeah.
A little
Okay.
water balloon toss.
Yeah.
I don't know
Like
what was
damn.
going
I
on
think
there.
that's I think that first picture, that first guy was Damler.
Could be.
No comments on this one. Maybe another visiting relative.
Yeah.
I don't have names on this one either, but it's a cute picture.
Cute
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put that on a greeting card.
I think
Yeah.
that's Mike Carroll.
It is.
And Sharon, I think it's Sharon Cappy on the other side.
I dated her in 85.
I recognize one of these, but I got some names and I recognize more now that I know the names.
I'd say at the very back, the two girls are, it looks like Lehman and, oh, geez. She's a president of the LA Rebounders.
Recognize him.
No. That almost
Yeah.
looks like Calmar.
Yeah, it does.
Our sleuths say Laura Coyle and Linda Hines.
Deanna. Somebody.
And let me see if Paula von Lanken is tagged, but I don't know. That doesn't always mean anything.
That in the front, the one on the left, kind of looks like Mark Calmar. I don't know if it is.
According to Eric Alexander, it's Kurt von Lanken and Chuck Tidwell.
Okay, but I can go with Eric.
How about the last two girls?
The last two girls are Laura Coyle and Linda Hines.
Oh,
I don't know who the middle girls are.
I don't either.
I think, well, unless those are the middle girls, I don't know. But anyway, that's looks like they are in a three-legged race.
Yeah. No,
I bet that's the Rogers.
Rogers's again. That's
Rogers
Mike's
again.
mom and dad. Yeah. Huh. That little Dale Best.
I've never seen him look so serious.
Yeah. Well, that's probably his first time. Maybe he started his teaching job out here because he taught.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have been in '85 because he started teaching. I think he was teaching here back in the early '70s.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, that looks like a flood.
That is at the corner of North Line Road and what do they call that little Northgate?
Oh yeah, Northgate. Northgate.
Yeah, that's the corner that floods.
Gordon Adams used to own that the building on the left. Gordon Adams owned that. It's a
Right.
duplex.
And then
Well, he owned the one on the right too.
Yeah, at one
Yes.
time he did. Yeah.
and right across the street, that two-story house. I know the Taylors live there, Rodney Taylor.
Yeah.
Is that where Hughesers lived?
Yes. Well,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the one on the left, Adams lived there for a while. That's where Dylan Hole lives now.
Right.
You don't see it flooding anymore. It used to flood
Yeah.
all the time.
Golf course, when they built the golf course, the house I live in was in a floodplain, all of them out here, Sharon Cappy, and they had to raise the elevations to get them out of there. And we had to do a study. Michener Bob, you'll like this. We hired all-tech engineering firm. They had to engineer the ditch out here.
Yeah.
They had to lay the banks down and create detention. And I guess evidently hydrological calculations are unbelievable. And $80,000. And then it had to be approved by the Hayes Drainage trustees, and they had Burns and Clancy charge $80,000 to review them.
Wow.
And anyway, they laid the banks back. They did a detention thing out here by number 15. And also a couple years ago, Tuscola had, in fact, Dan Ponder was so happy, he wanted to lay the bank back all the way. But when Owen Tucker did a subdivision up there, they also laid the bank back right across the street from Owen's subdivision for about 100 yards.
Yeah.
So those detention areas have really helped.
Yeah.
Yep.
inventory.
Yeah, that never, you don't see that flooding. You said this was 85. I'd say after this, that it never flooded much after that.
I would
Well,
say after-
there's Gordon Adams had an idea that he noticed that the ditch behind Northgate and the flooding, they were not full at the same time. The problem was the water getting to the ditch. So he came up with a plan to fix it and could never get it approved to put in. And so one day he just did it anyway. And
he wanted to put a flap on this drainage
he
pipe.
put a one-way valve on a drain pipe, and
But
he
then
went
what-
ahead and did it, and that took care of 90% of the problem.
Yeah.
Plus, they also raised the edges of the ditch.
Yeah.
As you know, when it gets above the edge of the ditch, it's just a bigger, when the river gets above the ditch, it just pours over everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the problem wasn't really the ditch, the water coming out of the ditch. It was water not getting to the ditch.
Mhm.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I think the real solution came when they actually started laying back the banks on these rivers. And Bob, out here on number 15, there's a huge area that was
Right.
inventories water. And like I say, they've got one. Yeah, that's looking over. That's looking over at the old house Jimmy Kleisch used to live in. I think that's looking north.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
this is those same duplexes on the right were on the left in the other picture.
It would go
Right.
across, it would
This
go
is
across
back.
the road. Every time it did this, it would go across the road, fill up over there, and then run out. It was always just a certain height. Well, Mitch, you may remember this. Whenever Wayne Ward was in charge of helping with roads and stuff, they would lay asphalt along that North Line Road, and it would create a higher barrier.
Yeah.
It was locking in. So they made, I think the last time Wayne did it, they made him grind the road down,
Could have been. Yeah.
put it down. So it's been a problem, but I don't think it's been a problem. I don't think it's been a problem on the other Scattering Fork hasn't.
No, I don't.
No.
Well, I don't think it's been a problem for a long time now.
No.
I think that, but all the efforts, whether like Dave was saying, whether what Gordon did or what they did by flattening that out, it helped. And then when the golf course went in,
Yeah.
before that was in '84. You say this is '84 or '85. The golf course wasn't even there then.
Right.
It came in 97, 96.
Yeah.
The other thing they did was on Scattering Forks, they actually went through and it was just full of trees and brush. They actually
Yeah.
cleaned that out. And I don't know if, the solution to all that is what they did in Champaign with that river that ran through the campus. If they could go out north of town here and just dig a hole in the ground, detention pond.
Right.
So they did in the middle of campus down there. What was that called? The Boneyard Creek.
Boneyard
Yeah,
Creek.
Boneyard.
Yeah.
They've got a hole in the ground that's 300 feet down.
Yeah.
And they've never had a flood ever since. But it's expensive. Solutions are expensive.
Yeah.
But
Well, we could use a
Tuscola-
little. We could use a little recreational lake up here just north of town.
That's actually Rick Kahneman in high school when they did the interstate.
Yeah.
They dug out all these every intersection. They dug out a little lake.
Right.
Sure.
Rick tried to convince them to go to one spot and create a great big lake.
Yeah.
We're doing these little mini lakes. Pick
Yeah.
up
Sure.
Good idea. They
by 80
didn't want to have to transport that stuff, I'm sure.
They got transported, but you would wind up with a heck of you could boat on the lake or whatever if they just.
Sure.
Tuscola used to have a lot of flooding problems in other areas. We haven't had a good flood in a long time.
Well, we're at the bottom of the bowl. One of the reasons we were able to run
Right.
water from Champaign down to Tuscola economically is that it's 80 feet below Champaign.
Yes.
There's only one pump station that kicks on occasionally. Now it goes to Arcola, and that's actually uphill. So we got a pump station there for Arcola.
Right.
We're at the
Yeah.
bottom of the bowl.
Well, wasn't there about 30? Wasn't it? I can't remember. I thought I knew the numbers one time. It was like 35 foot of elevation difference between Tuscola and Arcola.
It was double digits. I don't know, it was 15 or 30, but I know Champagne's like 80 some feet fall.
They used to they also used to talk about if in the days of the steam trains, if you would stand out by the swimming pool and watch the trains going towards what's the little town where Mark or Mike
Hayes,
hey, yeah, to go up towards Hayes, you could hear the trains really slow down and really start to have to work going up the hill to get to Hayes.
Well, I can tell you, I worked when I was going to law school. I worked during the harvest season for my brother-in-law at the elevator, and they would drop off cars to fill. And one day we freed one accidentally, and it rolled a long distance.
Yeah.
Toward
Yeah.
Tuscola.
I think Tuscola was a swamp until the mid 1800s.
Yes,
That's right.
Yeah.
It was 15-foot tall Indian grass and swamp, and they talk about the mosquitoes were so big they'd carry you off. And when the railroad was built, the story goes that the Irish people that came over from the potato famine, a lot of them just stayed and they manually dug the ditches to drain the swamp.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that's one of the reasons why Douglas County was one of the last counties to be formed. When they were part of Coles County before Douglas County, because nobody really wanted to be here because they thought it was too swampy.
Well, I don't remember what year, but there was from my recollection from the history books, there was a natural dam at Arcola that broke, and that started draining Tuscola.
Well, I wouldn't put them past those. Hey, Mitch, the people who've lived here all their life, we know about this, and the newcomers, bitch about the flooding problem. Well, it's been here historically, but every house I built, I never put a basement in because the water table was always so high.
Well, you had to really be careful with it, out there.
Now I understand they can build basements that pretty safe.
Out there on Jones Boulevard, the house where your ex-sister-in-law lived.
Jan Allison Seed.
Yeah, Jan Seed. That house, for some reason, there must have been a high water table because the sump pump that was out there seemed to run constantly.
Yeah.
But the two houses on either side of that never had a problem.
Could have been a sand seam or something.
Something is there because it seemed like it ran all the time, and it had a backup system on it.
Yeah.
So that water would come if it did flood, why would control it. But it was always for some reason and just right in that one spot.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Beck and I, fixed up the old Dr. Deaver house and Althea Deaver house.
Yeah.
And the basement had a partial dirt floor and the furnace is down there and everything. Heavy rains, it would come up about 5 feet and it'd always get in the furnace and just fry the boards. I'd have to go down and replace the electronic boards on those furnaces.
Yeah.
Could have put a foundation and a concrete floor, but
I never had much trouble in my house, which was just, 2 houses from that. But where I was having trouble in the later years is the floor had started to crack and water pressure would push up through that and I'd get some seepage. And we tore that floor, or I had a guy tear that floor totally out and we put drainage underneath it and then poured a new floor over the top of it, and it's been perfectly fine.
Another solution I used in a house I owned was to actually put a standpipe.
Yes.
And the water just goes up the standpipe. And
that's right. And that helps. Yep.
Yeah. But so any house I built, I never put Becky said, why don't we have a basement? I said, 2 reasons, water, and we were out of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Who's a little blurry, but I recognize her.
Jackie Meyer.
Jackie Meyer.
Where?
The one on the right with the Tuscola.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah,
she was quite an athlete.
All the Myers were hurdlers.
Yes.
I know Phil was. Danny.
Bob, are you keeping score this week? Because I think you may be ahead.
We've been ahead ever since we started this.
Listen, when Ingard didn't show up, it was over. I could have just gone to the bathroom.
Yeah. And scratched your back.
There's
my back's going to be bleeding here in about another hour.
A lot of pictures of Jackie. This one's different.
Yeah.
I don't know who the Tuscola girl is. There was a best girl that used to be a good track athlete. What year was she?
Who's that, Mike?
What year were Dale and Dale Best girls? When did they graduate, Mitch?
Oh,
Oh,
they graduated.
late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
Well, this is 80. Okay.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been them. No, they were 90, 91 and 90, or no, 90 and 93 or 4.
Tony was in Heather's class. So,
Okay.
well,
Oh yeah. That was 93. wasn't it?
93.
I think they were track athletes too.
They were.
They were, yeah.
This one was my neighbor growing up.
Well, don't leave us
Don't leave us in suspense.
Lived on Newkirk Street.
You're talking about the one leading the pack?
Yeah. Well, the one on the left, yeah.
Yeah.
got some initials.
AK,
Oh,
Kearns.
Angie Kearns.
Angie Kearns.
Yeah.
Looks like Trucker Kearns.
I think that's her again.
Yeah.
Jackie again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my God, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
That's why you don't have any hair. Look at
And I'm
that.
scratching my head again. Like, what day is it?
Mm.
Where in the world is this at?
Well, we have some other pictures from this. We're
That's
hoping you can
Mark-
tell us.
That's Mark Petty next to me on the left, and that's Nell Gilpin back through the middle.
Is that Nell? I thought maybe it's Marion.
No, that's
Armstrong.
not Nell, is it?
Well, sure.
I thought maybe it's Marion Armstrong.
Oh, yeah.
I would sooner say that. Yeah, I'd say that. We have to correct Mike. Doggone it.
Yeah.
You guys want to win. You guys must really want to win big.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we do.
just lucky that we're here.
I don't know what in the world that's about.
Well, we've got some other pictures. Maybe you can figure it out from some of these other pictures.
Mark Petty on the left again. And I think that's Bill Rogers' wife. What was her name on the right? She was on the county board, Mitch.
Yeah,
Sharon?
Sharon,
Sharon Rogers.
but I don't think that's her.
No.
You don't think it is?
Uh-uh.
Karen
Yeah.
West says Yvonne Walter in the white blouse.
That's who I thought it was.
Yeah, I think she's from Arcola, wasn't she?
Boy, Mark was a good looking stud, wasn't he?
We think these pictures may have had something to do with the start of the county museum.
Well, could have been.
Could have been a county-wide, because some of the other pictures have like here's Rod Randall.
Mayor of Arthur. Well, wait a minute.
Boy,
Doesn't look like
I
it.
would not have recognized him.
Yeah, he's always had that. He stole the Tuscola. He stole the Miss Tuscola and married her.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, boy.
Well, I think he looks just the same, just has white hair instead of dark.
I think it looks like Rod. He's gained maybe 10 pounds. I was talking to him down in Arthur a few months ago. He'd been mayor a long time.
Who's the lady? Do anybody know?
I don't know who the lady is.
Gally married. I forget her name.
Carroll.
Yeah, her
First
name.
name's Carroll, but I don't know her maiden name.
Here's what I know about her. She worked at TNB along with all
Yes.
the other Miss Tuscolas. Doug McCumber was in charge of hiring. Every girl he hired was Miss Tuscola. Doug had an eye for beauty.
So she was from Tuscola then?
Yeah, she
I
was Miss
didn't know
Tuscola.
that.
She was Miss Tuscola.
Okay.
What was her maiden name?
Well, I don't know. There's Renee,
Renee. Yeah.
classmate. Class of 65.
Yep. That is Mike Boyer.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You're right. Yep, I think you're right too.
Taylor's running away with it.
Yes, he is.
I think Bob's winning this race.
I'm sorry, guys. I just
Bob, don't
sit
you?
and observe Gary Ray.
Gary Ray in the background. Yeah, that's the only one. That other one looks like a Hastings.
No,
It looks like just a minute. I'm going to tell you. It looks like my old catcher's son, Rich.
Oh,
One of the Daryl, or
there was Daryl and Kirk.
I think it's Daryl.
the one in the front is Bradley Stevens. And the one in the back is the Cookie Monster.
Oh, was that Cookie?
Yep.
That's Scott. No kidding.
Scott Kibler. There's another picture of him coming up that you'll
That is.
recognize more.
Yeah.
Doesn't really look like Scott in this picture,
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
but you can tell in another one that it is.
They
Right
tried.
Right there. That's
Right
him.
there, you can tell who it is.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of guys they tried to play football. Here's one of them, and I know I think he lived with the Crosses for a year.
Yeah, he
Yes.
did. Yes.
And they tried to get him to play football. He didn't like it. He'd been All-American. The other guy was from class of 66. We tried to get Chuck Durnall to play football.
Oh,
And he came out for about a month, Bob. And I remember he was lined up against me, and I was
gosh.
gonna clean his clock, and he hit me, and I just didn't know where I was at for about 10 minutes. He was the strongest guy.
Yeah.
That is Cookie. That is Cookie there.
Cookie pretty much lived at our house for a while.
Did he? Yeah. He's turned out really well, hasn't he?
Super nice.
Yeah.
He's done a good job with his life.
And his kids are just absolutely
Oh
wonderful.
yeah, they were nice. They were very well mannered, nice kids. They were really good football players. Both of them were tough.
Yeah.
His sister is
Well, she bought the Kellogg house.
she's really nice too. And knowing how those kids grew up,
It was rough.
it's really impressive that they have done well for themselves.
You remember that? You guys know that she bought the Kellogg house there on
Which sister?
Charlotte.
One
Charlotte?
Park.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, you know, Scott's Aunt Mary was married to my birth father.
Oh, really?
Yes. And she's still living. She's over in Decatur, maybe 93, 94 years old.
What's her name?
Mary
Mary what?
Kibler.
Oh. Scott's dad used to work at the lumberyard back years ago, and his granddad worked for my dad for about 25 years at the lumberyard. Red Drake.
Delbert?
Red Drake. Yeah.
No,
Did not know that.
At Boyer again.
Where again? He looks familiar. He's wearing a tie for one thing.
yeah, I don't know why. The one in the tie is Rob Brown,
No.
Blue jeans and a tie.
and you'll know the other one when I tell you.
Well, give us the
Oh,
name.
that's the Clapper.
Mike
Clapper.
Clapper. Yep.
Hey, Bob, don't you have to go somewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
I got to get a drink. I'll be back.
The wrong
Bill,
one's, the wrong one's
figured
leaving.
Bill and I, we're kind of the Ed McMahons at the Tonight Show. We just sit here and observe while you and Mitch run the place.
Well, Mitch can certainly hold his own with me, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he's pretty knowledgeable.
This is the ag shop at the high school.
It didn't look like Latin to me.
Well, as opposed to the industrial art shop, they're side by side and they're similar, but this is the ag shop.
It's killing me.
Well, if the welding portion of that shop was in there, we'd probably see Ronnie Dick back there smoking.
Yeah. Good old Ron.
I don't know who these guys are, and I don't know what they're building.
Another tie. Nice tie.
That's you.
Don't know. Come on, Mike. It's your chance to get one.
Well, give me initials and I'll get it.
Well, I just have the last name.
Well, give me his last name. I'll get it.
Well, and there's a question mark. Travis Ron says, Pastor Meyer of the Emmanuel Lutheran Church. He thinks.
Who I was going to say, but I didn't want to.
That's the Sunday you missed, Mike.
Well, I missed a couple of them during my life.
Well, this will be Mike's. He recognizes the girls.
He was right. That was Mike standing underneath there looking up her dress.
Well, no, I was holding all three of them on my shoulders. That top one, we should know. Brian?
I got a lot of names here.
Carrie Brown? That would be
I don't know.
Carrie. She's not old. But I don't know.
Oh,
That looks like
could be, could be a little.
Marcy.
Could be a little with all that hair. One of the little girls had long hair like that. Brian,
Eric Alexander says Margie Nauta and Tracy Bierman, lower left. And Julie Colbecker says Carrie Purcell Smith on top of Susanna Ross Williams and herself, Julie Colbecker, and Heidi Huber as a spotter.
Oh, Heidi Huber, that would be. Well, Carrie, she was pretty small.
Yeah.
So it could
now Purcell, was that Chigger's sister, Nathan Purcell? Was that
no, it would have been his daughter.
Oh, that was Nathan's daughter.
Mhm.
I saw him about 5 years ago. The class of '63, my sister's class, used to meet once a month at the McDonald's. They invited me out because of my sister. And Nathan was there from out of town. I called him Chigger, and they all said, no. We don't. There's Middleton.
Yeah, I recognize Robbie Middleton.
And the bucket hat looks familiar.
Eric Alexander says in the crowd, he sees Rob Middleton, Rainia Campbell McCumber, Christine Quinn Pistorius, Scott Bronca, Steve McCumber, Mary Beth Henry, and Chris Zerwanka.
Hey, that's who I saw.
Wow.
So
Well, let's never ask Eric on here.
he'd like to come on, but
Well, I'm not
he
going to
works on Thursdays.
I'm not going to be here. He'd make us all look like a fool.
Well, he
That's
would.
right.
Yeah.
Hold it, David. Go up just a little bit.
Do you want blown up a
Yeah,
little?
well, no, you're fine. You're fine. I'm just trying to see the kid that's in the black shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks like Josh Lehman, maybe.
Yeah,
But he wouldn't be that young at that
It looks
85.
like looks like Scott McCumber's younger brother a little bit.
that. Yeah.
The one that had
And that's Scott Bronco right next to him.
brain tumor and died.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a nice little boy.
Yep. I think that's who that
He
is.
was playing Little League about the time my kids were, and he was a nice little kid.
Jet McCumber and Ruby. What was
Right.
her
Brenda.
Yeah, Brenda.
name? Ruby and Jet McCumber. Jet got that nickname because he had a bad back, and they said you could clock him with a calendar as he walked.
Yeah.
He was pretty easy going. He was a nice guy. Okay.
They lived on my block for a while.
That's
That's
Elizabeth.
Debbie Wax in the front. And she just passed away.
Who?
Debbie Wax.
Debbie Wax died?
She
Yes.
just died last week. Yeah.
What in the world? She was
Had
young.
cancer.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how frequently when people pass within a week or two they end up in our pictures.
Yeah.
I tell you, the women seem to have a couple cancer problems the guys don't have. It sounds pretty bad.
Well,
Yes.
the next one is Elizabeth Lincoln.
Yes,
That
it
is,
is.
that is Liz Lincoln. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is she the one that married Reed or Roger?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. She married Roger Reed's son, Brad.
Roger, I knew he and I had a blast in high school. He always liked cars.
Yes, he did. He's nice.
Good guy.
He is a good guy. And he married a gal that was engaged to Becky's cousin in Paris.
Linda, his wife, Linda.
Linda, yeah. She
Yeah.
was married.
Well, she was from Newman, though.
She was engaged to Larry Dittemore from Paris. He got killed in a car wreck.
She was.
No, Larry Dittemore was killed, and then she was.
Yeah, but you're talking about Roger's wife.
Yeah, Linda. In fact, we'd go down to Paris to see Chuck Dittemore and stuff. And Linda was often invited. Still
All
thought,
right.
You know, she was original, but I think her dad was a barber over at
yeah.
Newman.
I don't know how she hooked up with a Paris guy. I just know she's.
Yeah.
David,
Yeah.
blow that picture up a little bit. Is
Yeah.
that Murray in the background there?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. You couldn't miss Gene with $1 million.
Nope.
He took an hour off of painting his house. There's Middleton again.
Yeah.
Little
He was
tiny-
doing a Red Man commercial there.
Yeah, but he repainted his house. He used a hair dryer to melt the paint. It took him about 3 years. Is that the Berg girl right there?
She wasn't a cheerleader, but I think she was a pom-pom girl. I don't know if that's her or not. I ought to know, hadn't I?
Yeah.
You ought to know.
Could be. Could be.
Some of them say they see
There's Margie Nada.
Daniel Mink in the crowd and Rhonda Fair.
Yeah, Margie Nada's right after Elizabeth Lincoln.
Yeah. Her mom lived down there on Van Allen, or what was that street? Down near the fire station.
Pinson, isn't it?
Well, it was a block east of the fire station. That
Center. She's on the corner of Pinson and Center.
yeah, that brown house.
Yeah,
Well,
reddish brown.
when I got divorced, Doug McCumber tried to fix me up with her mom. She was single. And I said, why did you pick her? He said, every time I see her, she's one of us reading a book. You'd like somebody reading a book.
Yeah.
I said, that's it?
We always used to call her Vera Not at Home. Because when my son had a paper out, every time he'd go to collect for the paper, she was never home. So
Yeah.
we always called her Vera Not at Home.
I pioneered that technique.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
There he is.
Oh boy. Is that Lanita?
Yes.
Sure
Yeah,
is.
it sure is.
That's the museum.
That's why we thought this might be a museum meeting,
Yeah.
because Lanita, that was her thing in 1985.
Well,
And
Dave,
plus
let's
Bob was on the board.
Dave, let's tell the world. You and I have been written out of history, but let's tell them.
You tell them.
Dave and I were original members of that forum board. And we both got crossways with Lanita, and we're no longer listed as founding members of the board.
Well, I don't think I was actually on the board originally because Bob was. I took Bob's place when he got off the board. But Lanita tried to have me kicked off the board.
Well, I was. I
Yeah.
see, and David, I don't know about you, but when I see Bob Hastings, I think of Mark Twain. A little hyperbole, never heard a good story. That's what.
without the cigar.
Yeah, no, he just reminds me of Mark Twain. I don't know why. Bob was a unique individual. There's Lanita and Mary. Is that Mary Kay?
Mary Kay. Yeah,
Okay, Kalmar.
That looks like
Bob.
that's Bob. Yeah.
That's Bob.
That looks like Marcy a little
Marcy
bit.
Shoemaker a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, no one has said Marcy's been on here, so
Well, it looks like her. There he is.
There's Mike Carroll.
Yeah, that's when I had eating disorder.
who are you talking to?
See
That's
this.
when you.
Is that sippage?
That's when you look like Homer Carroll.
Yeah.
Those are your Homer Carroll days.
So anyway, this proves I was one of the original founders, and I incorporated them, and I also got them a 503c tax deduction thing. I did all that work for them, and then I was canned. Did it for free. Mitch, I think my height was 365 pounds. I'm 193 now.
Boy, that's good.
Yeah.
I've lost a small man.
Carol Schroed says Michael Gale back in the olden days.
Oh yeah, Carol always called me Michael Gale. I don't know who that gal is.
Oh, is that
That's not sippage.
That's
I
not
knew her.
No, that's not
is that your middle name?
Gale. Yeah, my dad's Homer Gale. It's spelled Gail. I'm Michael Gale, Gale, and my sister was Melinda Gale, Gayle.
Huh.
I'll be darned.
I didn't know that.
Well, I just a little trivia for the world.
Yeah, a little trivia. Yeah. Well, see, that's something.
I knew
I'm
the
glad you
middle
got
initial
one
was
today.
G. I
Oh.
guess I never knew what it stood for.
I'll put that in the memory bank.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was state's attorney. I had some issues, and I think what made me happy back then was food. Some people choose drugs and alcohol, but food. Oh, there's the mayor of Arthur, and that looks like Marcy again. And there I am back there with Mark Petty and that same
I
gal.
don't think that
Oh,
is.
there's-
I don't think so.
Right-hand corner is Marion Armstrong,
Yes,
Yes, it is.
yes, it is.
Joan Armstrong, bracelets.
Behind you
Over to the right corner.
in the
Right.
right corner.
That's bracelets
That's,
Armstrong.
Yeah, that's not Marion. That's
Joan,
Joan.
Joan, Tuscola.
Yeah.
Joan Armstrong.
No, we're talking about right in front of Mike. There is Marion Armstrong. Right, her
Right,
head
right
looks
here.
like it's on his chest. But
That's Marion, and over here's Joan. And
Right.
that's Mark Petty right next to me. Used to just beat the hell out of me in court. You know, this Mitch, you'll like this political story. Maybe Bobby will, but so I'm state's attorney. Well, first off, I called up Marvin. You know Marvin Jones.
oh yeah,
Marvin was head of the party, and I was running on a write-in against Eddie Miller. And I called up Marvin to see if he'd endorse me. He said, "Nope, he's not. Our candidate's Eddie Miller. Nope, no way." And so I won. And the next day he called me up and he says, "I want $250." And then Petty was appointed public defender, and he was a Belleville insurance lawyer, did a lot of courtroom. He's a really good court guy. He came up and whipped me the first 3 trials, just beat me like a drum. And Mark came to me the next one day and says, "You got to pick a case you can't lose and win." I said, "Why?" He said, "Marvin Jones called me and said, you keep making our station look like an idiot. We're going to fire you and get somebody else." He said, "You got to pick a case you can't lose." Now, Mitch, you were there in those days. That was the way it worked, wasn't it?
Yeah, Marvin's pretty powerful boy, and back in the day, you know,
He ran
he
the
really, you know, by the time I worked with him a lot, why he was really big into Douglas County tourism. I don't know what, you know, I can't remember all the things, but I know that was his pet project in the later years.
You know what his job was, his patronage job for the state of Illinois was, didn't you? He was a bridge inventory specialist. He's supposed to keep track of how many bridges there are and if they're still there.
Oh, well, that was a good job.
The bridges very rarely disappear.
They don't go away. No.
There's Bob, and is that Billy Lee next to Bob?
Yeah, I agree. I think it is.
I think that's Margaret Stillwell.
Margaret Jo Stillwell.
There is.
Yeah.
There's
I got a point, Bob.
Yes, sir. You sure did.
now why are you begging to Bob? Mitch and I are hanging in there.
Because he's keeping score.
I'm keeping score.
Well then
Who's the guy standing up with the beard?
He looks familiar.
that's not Pendergrass.
Architect.
Oh, that's he lived down by the across from the Baptist church. First
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What was it? Starts with an M. Starts with an
Yes.
M. And his wife worked at TNT as the
Yes.
Yes,
vice
that's
president.
right.
They live in the house that we lived in when we came to Tuscola when I was 3 years old.
He starts with an M. I remember. And
Moorhead.
Moorhead.
Bill Moorhead. Bill Moorhead.
Damn it. Bob gets another point. I'll tell
Sorry.
you.
I got one because I said his first name.
Well, I know he fixed the ceiling up with tongue and groove wooden laths. 'Cause I looked at it as a nice house. Engelhardt is going to beat me like a drum when he sees the score of this thing.
Yeah,
He is.
This one overhead shot somewhere. I thought someone might know who this is.
You know that guy's hat. I can see his hat there.
That hat, I'm going to get a point here. Those 2 hats were free.
Yeah. I'll bet you're right. I bet you they're right.
No farmer ever paid for a hat.
No.
This one, according to Eric Alexander, is Roger Wolf.
Don't know him.
No.
I didn't know him well, just recognized
I
him.
think Eric makes up names.
Ah,
Jim Hagan.
we know that. We know that one.
Nick GM. What a guy.
Yeah.
Can I tell a quick Higgins story, show you how nice a guy is? Well, sure I can. Nobody objected. And
No,
Bob-
go ahead.
So Jim's coming into work one day from out at the Mosquito Ranch out east of town.
Yeah.
And the guy's car broken down the side of the road. Jim pulls up and Jim says, "Well, I can't get it. I can tow it in. We'll work on it." The guy says, "I got to be in Iowa. My son's getting married in 7 hours. I got it." And Jim says, "Well, here, take my truck. And after you're done with the wedding, on your way home, stop by my business and give me my truck back and we'll fix your car." He said, "Fine." He said, "You really do that for me?" He said, "Yeah." Guy jumped in his truck and took off, and Jim sat there, realized he's sitting there with a dead car on the edge of the road. 4 miles from home. Jim Higgins would get you with the shirt off his back.
You know, not very many people know it, and he doesn't want very many people to know it. But
Oh, no.
he was pretty. He's a very tender-hearted guy, but
Oh, my God.
he comes across pretty gruff. But
He didn't, but you're right. He doesn't want you to know it.
he doesn't want anybody to know it. But he did a lot for a lot of different people.
Oh, he co-signed. I think he's still co-signing loans for farmer workers. He had a guy, I won't name names. He had a guy steal from him
Oh yes,
Oh, yeah.
we know that guy,
Yeah, we know it.
and hired him back.
and hired him about 4 times.
I said, Jim, he goes, man, he's the best tire guy I ever had.
Yep.
He fixed the house up for him. I don't know how many loans he's guaranteed. And Kay's the same way. They
Yeah.
were poor people. And I think Jim has a lot of compassion, for people in trouble. But and he's had renters that he's let slide for years because he just has a tender heart.
Yeah.
That look he's trying to give you is false.
That's right.
Yeah, you're right.
He would
Yeah.
he would do anything in the world for you.
I worked for him for a while processing film part-time.
Remember when he had the film thing down at the old Eisner, down at the old
Yes.
And
Stable?
when he got out of it, he gave me all the equipment.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. One more thing about Jim. He and I were talking about somebody, I won't say who. And I said, he's a really nice guy. And Jim said, no, wait a minute. What do you mean by nice guy? And it turned out that the guy I was talking about had a good personality. You like being around him. But then he's told me some stories about how selfish he was and things. And Jim's the opposite. If you didn't know him, you may not think he's a nice guy. But once you know him, he's probably the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet.
Yeah.
You can't go by just personality.
He always said that he was his own worst enemy, and I would agree. He would
Well,
get
we went out to eat with him one night, and they got in the back, and I said, "How's it going?" He said, "Not too good." And I said, "What happened?" He said, "All of my automotive guys quit." And she goes, "Jim, tell him the story." Well, tell him the story, Jim. Well, I yelled at him.
Yeah. And he would do that. He would blow up, and a minute later, he was perfectly fine. He wasn't like me. I always carried those. I was like an elephant. I never forgot. So, but not Jim. Jim wasn't that way.
He would yell at people, and he started yelling at me one time in the store. It wasn't in order for him to yell. He just needed an outlet because it didn't necessarily have to be anything you did. You just happened to be standing there.
That's a good point. Good point.
And he started yelling at me one time, and I held up my hand like this, and I said, "Jim, I got a job. I don't need this one." And he turned around and walked away.
He admits he can't hold it back. He is who he is. But
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I think if I called him right now and said I need $25,000, no questions asked, he'd somehow go to the bank and borrow it or do something.
Yeah.
That's how I see him. Just the kind of
I
guy.
don't think he'd have to go to the bank and borrow it.
The things that they did for Tuscola is just unbelievable.
Well, Mitch,
And to have that business here.
Mitch, we put a bid out for a great big 6-foot mower at the courthouse when I was on the board. And Jim got the low bid by about $8,000. I went and talked to him. I said, Jim, he said, yeah. He said, I sold that at my cost minus my holdback. I didn't make a penny. I said, well, why'd you do it? Well, just goodwill and advertise. I said, Jim, your name's nowhere on the mower.
That's right.
Sure.
He would do stuff like that to help.
He told me the other day, and this hadn't been that long ago, he said that they were the second largest Toro dealer in the country.
Well, I'm driving one of them.
Yeah. Well, I've got one too. So
Me too.
Is he, by the way, did they ever figure out his pain?
yeah, not really. He's got his last venture was that he might have a cracked pelvis.
Oh boy. Okay.
And so I think this week, maybe I just had dinner with him Tuesday night. And so I think he's to go maybe get that checked out a little bit farther. I think in Indianapolis.
They can cement that now. They can put a needle in there and just go down the crack with cement. They
Yeah.
did it decisional. Well, anyway, good luck, Jim. You're a great guy.
Yeah. I agree.
Super, super nice guy. So this looks like the Methodist Church. So it
Mitch?
used to be the Methodist Church.
Every time I roofed that church, I couldn't drive by. I was going to see somebody on the ground. Remember watching people roof that Methodist church? They have a 12.
Oh, gosh.
Oh,
yes.
yeah,
They
yeah.
have a 12-12 pitch, and they had one was about 12. I mean, it just.
Not sure that's the Methodist church.
I'm not sure that's the Methodist
I'm
church.
not either, 'cause it's got that extra cupola up there on the left. See it?
Yeah.
Oh, man,
It's gotta
maybe
be
not,
steep
may
enough.
not be.
Doesn't seem to be steep enough.
No, yeah, if they
What do you
didn't
think, what do you think it is?
if they didn't have that second cupola, it does look it's got a Romanesque arch on the window, and that's not the Methodist church.
No.
When I tell you, if you're standing over about where that little garage is there that Chris Hill owns,
Right. Oh, it's that side of it.
and looking at that direction, that might be it. But I don't remember that second peak there,
You're looking,
because I would think you would see the bell tower.
you're right. You're looking from the east to the west, and that's very seldom do you look that way.
Right.
Right.
Well, now I got to go drive by it today.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't remember, see that chimney that's there. If that is, that's long, if that picture was taken in 85, that's not the Methodist church, because they didn't have that
Well,
chimney would not have been there in
I
85.
also think the roof was steeper. I thought.
Well,
it was-
yeah, I think so too. I think so too.
Well, what church would that be? It's got a Romanesque arch. It's not the Catholic.
Not the Catholic.
Mm-mm.
No.
No.
I don't think it's the first Christian.
May not have been here in town.
This is another Hugo shot.
Could be.
Yeah.
There's Mark.
McCarty
Mark Petty.
and McCarty
And McCarty.
and Hastings.
How's that? How are those three aces right there
Mm.
at the bank? Mark's another guy. He was a ferocious attorney. I mean, we nicknamed him the Pit Bull, and he and I took a case together against the IDOT, and we were co-counsel. So we met. And I said, Mark, here's my strategy. Here's Plan A. If it doesn't work, here's Plan B. If it doesn't work, here's Plan C. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, I'm talking about, it's a chess game. You got to come up. I said, what's your theory? He said, I bite them in the thigh and hold on till they die. But Mark also is one of the nicest, most generous guys in the world.
Yeah.
And
I never really knew him. I heard a story on him one time that he hated being an attorney.
Well, we both did.
But his parents wanted him to be an attorney, and so that's what he did. But he hated doing it.
I didn't like being an attorney either. I was started in pre-med, but that science stuff got in the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's scary.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Bob,
Oh my gosh,
Bob's imagined me open up his heart, aren't you, Bob?
Well, yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking about you and
Yeah.
Puff, you and being another Puff Cunningham. That's
Oh, God.
scary.
Oh, God. So
You could be associates together.
one of the reasons Mark and I got to be best friends was being a private lawyer, handling divorces with people you know, having to, it's hard. And he and I would often just get together, go to Little Mexico and just commiserate. We both understood what we were going through.
Yeah.
That's why I started building homes for a while. I was burned out as a lawyer.
Well, there you go. That's right.
And,
Well, of course, Mike's heard of this story before, but in over 40 years of being in the newspaper business, Mark Petty is the only lawyer who ever sent me a cease and desist letter threatening to sue me over something I put in the newspaper, and had to call my lawyer over in Springfield, and we sent back a letter that basically told him to buzz off. And,
well, Mark, he had a client. He'd do whatever. I've been state attorney about a month, and Jan Ray said we're in trouble. I said, what happened? She said, we arrested John Brandlin in Villa Grove, and we got him in the jail. I go, what's the problem? He said, Mark Petty said someone's going to get a subpoena. I said, well, let him issue a damn subpoena. It takes about. But Mark was a pit bull.
well, I had a cousin that got in a little trouble, had an accident, and my dad called me and said, we need to get a lawyer for your cousin, and we need a good one. And so I recommended Mark to him, and he got every charge dropped.
I'll tell you one more little known fact. As a lawyer and as a judge, if I had a really complicated thing, I often called Mark. he knew more than me. I remember as a lawyer, I'd call him, I'd say, Mark, what about this? But he says, well, let me look through the statute books, and he'd look and he said, well, here's this thing, and he said, blah, blah, blah. I go, oh, okay, thank you. And so after about 100 of these calls over a period of 5 years, I said, Mark, I've got this search and seizure thing I can't find. He said, have you checked the statute book? I said, no. He said, okay, I guess you want me to do it. So he would take his time. I called him one time as a judge about this. He couldn't practice in front of me. We were such good friends, so I could talk to him. I said, I got this sentence I'm going to give a guy, and I don't know if it's the right sentence. He says, whatever sentence you give him is the right sentence. I said, what do you mean? He says, you're the judge, whatever you say.
That's right. Yeah.
And I said, well, I want to make sure. He said, he says, as long as it's in the bound of reasonableness. No, he's one of my favorite guys. Higgins was a business partner of mine, and Mark's a business partner of mine. How lucky did I get those two guys?
Yeah, pretty lucky. Yeah.
Pretty lucky.
Yeah, there's
Where's Wayne? Is that Wayne Ward?
Armstrong.
Is that Wayne Ward next to Joan, or not? Or is that Lou? That's Lou.
That's Lou.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Mary Jo again, the mayor.
Armstrong.
Army and
Marion Armstrong.
Bill McCarty, Bob Hastings.
Bob's asleep. Go back on Bob, see if he's asleep.
Yeah, could be.
You
Got
know who
Rod
that is.
Randall. You got Richard Sommer over here.
I can't tell.
Oh yeah.
Margaret Stillwell again.
Over here.
And the arm.
I do think that.
Well, there's Margaret's mom. That
Army and
one.
Mary.
What the hell's her name?
Christine.
Yeah.
Is that
Marty,
Lucille Murray
Yeah.
over here,
Yeah.
Mike?
Well, let me look here for a second. Where you at?
No,
That's Lucille.
That is Lucille Murray.
That's what I
Lucille
thought.
Murray.
She
Yeah.
was one of the original. In fact, we met at her house when we.
Yeah,
formed the
yeah, I
church.
remember.
And
All
by
right,
the
who's
way-
the lady in the glasses just to the left of Lucille?
Edna Christine.
yeah, that's Margaret Jo's.
Yeah,
mother.
it is.
This is the museum because there's their kitchen right back there, isn't it? In that museum's kitchen.
Well, this would have been before they had that building.
No, I don't think that wasn't it.
If they 85, they were just getting started.
Well, I know, but
Richardson.
no,
Yeah.
I remember I was city attorney and we were giving them money. I think they took over that Eisner building back in the 80s. Because in 80,
Not 85.
you don't think it was that early?
No, Higgins was in it by then. Higgins moved out there in 80 to
No,
the
this
Eisner
is
building.
the old This is Furco's IGA.
The IGA. building.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Eisner.
No, this is Furco's across from
We're fact checking.
That was
Fact
an
check.
IGA when I was little.
Mitch. You think this is the old Furco IGA because that's where they cooked back in that corner.
Well, it does, but the doors don't look right.
Oh, you're right. There's some emergency doors there. I don't
Yeah,
see.
the doors just don't look right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where that is.
Oh,
That's the Ag Extension Building.
that's
I bet you're right.
yeah.
That's the Ag Extension Building. Yeah, because I was on the board when that was built, and I remember going to meetings back there.
Del Bateman.
Yes.
There's a good chance I took this picture.
Well, where's your copyright protection?
I would have been working for Bob at the time.
Who's in the back next to Bob and McCarty and the Mayor of Arthur? Who's that right there?
I don't know who that is.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's Richard Summer over there underneath the coat
Yeah, on
rack.
the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Lanita was the head of it. So Richard. I'll tell you Lanita Summers.
Mhm.
Lanita Summers put on a hell of a museum.
Yeah.
She had shows. She actually had 2 or 3 shows a year, schools, wartime. I loved them. And I wish they did that again. Remember that, Mitch? It'd just be full of high school uniforms or churches. One would be on the church, one would be on.
Right.
I thought she ran a good, in terms of, and there was something to do about every 3 or 4 months there'd be a new exhibit.
Yeah.
I thought she did a great job. There he
Look
is,
at that. Now look at that.
Wow.
Darth Vader with his helmet off.
Dave, you want to take a shot at that?
I don't know who that is, but he needs a haircut and a shave.
Well, we can only give you 1 point then for the day.
What did your mom say about that beard when you grew it? Anything?
No.
Well, she had too many kids. She probably didn't even know it was you.
Well, I had to grow a beard, so she stopped calling me by my sister's names.
You look like a man on a mission.
This was my office in the Tuscola Review.
Yeah.
And when I say office, I mean this was a corner of the front office.
Yeah.
You know, you and I, Dave, you and I share a long time relationship with Bob Hastings, very instrumental in my life and your life, way back in the from the
Mhm.
60s when he covered sports and he coached me in baseball. He was Mr. Baseball. Knew Bob my whole life.
Yeah. Well, he was my baseball coach or a little league coach.
Don't you miss those old Amos Albritton and Frank Michener and Paul Taylor and all these? Don't you miss the guys? Those are great guys.
Yeah.
Bob
Well, I always thought they were.
Yeah.
Well, just think about it, Mitch. You and Bob and I and Ingvar, we're it now.
Yeah, don't tell me about it. I don't want to hear about it.
Pretty scary.
I
It's a
doubt
little bit
I
scary.
doubt if we're held in the same high esteem. I doubt if the young high school kids are thinking, aren't we lucky to have Mitch and Bob and Ingvar?
Yeah. No, I don't think they're thinking the same.
I think I weighed about 130 pounds in this picture.
I said, you do look a little thinner there.
Yeah. I haven't changed much. I still need a haircut and a shave.
Oh, you got married.
It's
got
just
married.
all turned white.
No,
It's still dark on top.
you got married and you got happy.
Yeah. So that's it.
Those were good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could have closed
Yeah.
on a winner.
Bob's the winner today.
I think Bob's the winner.
Mhm.
And I think with Mitch
Takes.
in the room, that's saying something.
And he told me this morning he hadn't even cheated. He said he hadn't looked at him
I
yet.
had not.
Bob, it's more fun if you see him for the first time and make an ass of yourself. And
I didn't post them till I didn't post them till about 4 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Dave, my vote on guest is if you got somebody wanting to push a big issue, they're probably going to use an hour or more. I'd do a special program every now and then.
Okay.
Let Mitch and I get away and Bob to go to St. Louis ball game or something or
mhm.
take a week off.
Well, we can always do it on a different day and still do our regular.
Well, we could. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I would agree. I think it would be nice, and especially if, in this particular case, if they're trying to pump up some particular event, like I sort of sneaked in there with you on the class of '65 reunion, but
That
you know,
was major. That was
yeah,
major.
that was a major. Just, but I do think that it would be nice to help them promote their agenda.
Yeah, both the people watching the show then will become aware of it, and
Right.
So-
Yeah, it may go worldwide yet.
Well, one of the problems on this program with gals is they changed their name. I'm not sure they should.
That's right.
Sure, you're right.
Yeah.
And I joke with Becky. Becky's officially Becky Cook, and I said, somebody, I said, it's one thing you didn't go back to Kegley, kept your ex-husband's name.
Mhm.
A guy asked me one time, says, that bug you? He said that your wife didn't take your name. She's the ex-husband. I said, as long as I roll over at 2 a.m, she's laying there. I don't care what she calls her.
yeah.
Who cares about that stuff?
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
right.
my ex-wife got remarried, and when she got divorced again, she took my name back.
Well, that's a compliment.
So
Either that or it's worth some money.
I'll tell you what is a real problem if trying to get these real driver's licenses
yeah,
for women. It's a real problem. They got to go back.
Yeah.
So let's say they've had a divorce, so they've had a name change, they got to go back and get their birth record, their divorce decree. They got to go back and get all that stuff just to be able to get a real driver's license.
Becky's been talking about that.
Yeah, it's a real pain. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and are we going to have those? If I'm not going to fly, do I need that thing?
Unless it would get to the point where you would have to have it to get into any kind of federal building.
Oh, they're probably going to expand it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a bit surprised. Right now, I think you're limited to just flying.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you go down I've been down the driver's license bureau probably 3 times. I didn't realize this. My sticker expired April 30th.
Mm-hmm.
On April 27, I went in the hospital. So I've been constantly out of it.
Right.
Like he said, my God, your sticker is 3 months old. And so I tried to go to the driver's license bureau, and it is packed. No matter what day I go,
Yep.
when I go, it is full of people. I don't know if that's people trying
But you know something, Mike, if you're just going for a sticker, they will get you ahead of other people if
How
you're
do you,
taking
how do you do
tests.
that? How do you do that when there's 30 people staring at you sitting in a seat? How do you do
No,
that?
they just hold up your
Oh, hold it up.
registration and let them know
You just
when
pull
you
up.
come in.
I used to be a judge kind of thing. They'd love that.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah. Just,
Yeah.
Just, I'm special.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
It stoned me to death. It stoned me
Yeah.
to death out in the hall.
I was thrown off at the
Thank-
courthouse
thank
the other
you.
day. They got new security people, and I had to go through the metal detector. And I said, "My gosh, I haven't gone through this in years." They said, "Well, you must know somebody." I said, "No, they know me."
Mm-hmm.
Why is it full all the time? Do you guys have any idea? Are they closing?
Well, I think we get a lot of out of town people coming here because it's more. You think it's bad there, you ought to be in Champaign.
Right.
I went to Champaign one time. I would never go there again.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the people in Champaign, that's why they come down here.
Just
Okay.
like Social Security, you go to Effingham instead of anywhere else.
I went to Champaign Social Security. I retired, and my back was bugging me. And I stood up a couple of times. Armed guy came over and said, "Sit down." I said, "My back's cramping up." I said, "Sit down."
Mm-hmm.
So later, when I finally got back there, I said, "What in the hell?" He said, "We have a lot of trouble up here. We have
Yeah.
people screaming, yelling. They want their money. They don't understand how complex it is."
Yeah.
I said, "No, they have policemen up there."
Well, I tell you what, though, I think I did all mine online when I wanted Social Security, but I took Barb down to Effingham because everybody always told me to do that, and they were as nice of people down there as you could ask for.
I did the same thing, and Becky went down there. And you are right. We walked in, and
Oh, we just had a Becky sighting.
another Becky. Come here, honey.
Scratch my back.
Scratch my back.
I did. Oh, you scratch my back. Oh, did I get lucky?
Yeah, you did.
Becky, they were saying, and you know this, they say getting that special ID if you're divorced and got some other name.
Oh, yeah.
You have to get your divorce certificate.
No, I told you that.
Where was that Maine?
No, that's in Urbana.
Okay.
That's all I need. I have, and then I have to get my,
Birth certificate too. You
What's
got to get you have to have your birth certificate
I have
too.
one, but it's not, it doesn't have the seal on it, so I have to have that, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That's down in Charleston, so.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a real deal to go through all that. Then you got to have an address or something with your name on it, and there are all sorts of different things. This just really, I've seen several videos about it. Plus, I've also experienced it with friends, that have had to do it. So
If you have a passport, you don't need it. I mean,
that's right.
Correct.
That's exactly right.
So I don't know if it's easier just to get a passport.
Yeah, it isn't that hard to get a passport. I've had one, and then I let mine expire, and then I had to get another one, but that's not that difficult.
Well, I never planned to leave Tuscola again, so I don't think I need it.
Yeah, well, you probably don't. Like I say,
you can have the water. You can have it.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Anything else before I?
Bob, you want to say anything since you're today?
No, it's kind of nice not to have Bill around to taking all these points away.
Bill's going to watch this tonight.
Yeah, Bill will be watching.
By the way, if you see Bill, which you'll see him before I will probably, ask him. We had talked about a Japanese rifle that Quentin had that Monk ended up with, and then Bill ended up giving it to the museum. Ask him if he can remember when he donated that, approximately.
What year?
Well, I will, but I know he's talked about, he gave him some Arcola historical stuff.
Yes.
And then later he went down and they couldn't find it.
Right.
He got very upset in the museum.
Well,
The rifle's still there or not?
No, it's not. I talked to Eric Alexander, who talked to Kim McGee. And Kim is really interested in finding out about when it might have been donated, but he's wanting to find it.
Well, Kim's a real Is he Civil War or?
He's Civil War. He's a big Civil War guy. Yeah.
Yeah, some of those things are, I know several years ago, Lisa uh, Sopel, Duke Loud's daughter, contacted me. He had a drawing of a deer that was the official drawing of the official state animal that hung in the Capitol, and it was the original, and it has disappeared. Nobody seems to know anything about it.
Well,
It's too bad.
Yeah.
well, I have a photo that I was going to give him. It's me getting a sponge bath while I'm standing there nude.
Down at Sarah Bush. That was
Well, I
on your
hope that
set, yeah.
disappeared.
Yeah, I'm glad that disappeared. Yeah.
Well, and those girls call me every day, and I just don't know how to get rid of them. Bugging me. They want to come down and see me.
Mhm.
It's a problem to be a stud muffin.
Oh, boy.
Well,
Yeah.
Mitch, you got me down for the 23rd, then Beck and I'll be there the 23rd.
Well, I'll send you a little.
Oh, you
I'll
said
send you a
stud,
note.
you
I'll send
said
you a
stud
note.
muffin.
Oh, look at that. That thing on its own went to this picture when I said stud muffin.
Talk about stud muffin. It queued up, and I don't know.
All of a sudden, it just popped up.
Just popped up. It just this AI stuff's out of control.
You look like you're a woman slayer. I mean, you wrote a book
Oh
about
yeah.
that. In fact,
Oh
you were
yeah. I
a
was.
psycho killer.
Yeah. Well.
You guys read David's new book? Hey, Beck,
What book?
would you mind handing me that book right there on the corner? I'm bugging Beck to death. Right there on that corner, there's David's book underneath there. I'm going to give you a plug. I read it, David.
Hey,
Duffel read it.
and you're still talking to me.
Duffel said it's not for the faint of heart.
It is not.
Oh,
I can't see it.
You get it, David?
Well,
We're down.
hold it up a little more. A little more. A little more. There you go. Right there.
Oh, okay.
there.
Yeah.
This is Kill Seeker, Confession of a Psychopath. This is David's autobiography.
It's a how-to, Mike.
Yeah. David, he can write humor or he can write this psycho sex killer stuff. He's very talented,
So
multi-talented guy.
How'd you find the
well-known stud muffin?
how'd you find the legal stuff in it?
It was really good.
Because
You checked with Petty?
Yes.
Yeah.
okay.
He called me and I checked with Petty.
Oh, okay.
the general asked me if I had consulted with you on the legal stuff.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get sued.
No, but I actually didn't consult with anybody. But
You know this stuff better. You know the Open Meetings Act better than anybody. You know a lot of this stuff better.
well, this was a little more than open meeting stuff.
Guys, are you going to be gone next week? When are you going to be going to the?
Yeah, no, we'll still be around.
Not till the 24th.
Not till the
of August.
24th of August. We're not going till,
I won't worry about it.
yeah.
Bob, you may say he can go before me out the games. Don't you go out and watch a lot of the games?
I do. I think, well, they had a junior pony game last night, I think. I don't know when they play again out here.
I don't either. We try and drive by. If Evan's pitching, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
And
He's a pretty good pitcher.
well, he was honorable mention all conference as a sophomore.
Right.
You know that whole Bill in Little League. I don't know if you remember this. Bill pitched for the Indians.
Yep.
He was a heck of a good pitcher.
I also remember Jerry Aiden and
Jerry Aiden. That's a blast from the past. Jerry
what was
Aiden.
the Bell?
John Bell.
John Bell.
We had Bob. You were a Cardinal, right? You're on my team.
Yep.
So we had won the Little League. There's one game left. We had clinched the Little League title. I think Jim Chaplin might have been our coach. I don't know who was there.
Probably.
And we played Hastings, the Yankees. And you guys will love this Bob Hastings story. So the game doesn't mean anything because we've clinched it. They show up, and they're pitchers from Indiana, John O. Bell.
Yeah.
At Tuscola. He's 2 years older than us.
Yeah.
Well, hell, I'm 12.
Yeah,
This guy, I mean, he was big and strong.
it was.
This guy was throwing it 90 mile an hour from a little league mound. You couldn't even see the ball. And they beat us 7-0. We protested and won. But Bob, good old Bob, just came in to shove it up our nose.
Sure.
Mhm.
I'll never forget that.
Do you remember the night that I hit Joe Mendel in the back of the head? And he was catching.
He was a Cub.
Yeah, he was catching.
He was reaching
We
out.
had a runner stealing, and he came out in front of the plate to get the ball, and I swung and hit him in the head.
Yeah. I thought it was one of your best hits.
It was. It was. You know, it was like hitting a watermelon.
He pitched left-handed. I had a home run over the right field fence. He was hard to hit. The ball was screwball, you know. And I had a home run. And every time, you know, he's a DJ in England, as you guys know.
Oh yeah.
And he and I have talked. He came back for our
50th.
50th.
He was back for the 50th. Yeah.
He's a nice guy. Older brother Bob, I think.
Yeah.
Lived in the Kellogg house that
Right.
That's right.
Right. That's where they lived. Yeah.
and,
Bob, his brother Bob passed away, I think, just in the last year or so.
they moved down to Aruba after high school, and Joe talked about laying on the beach with the women in Aruba.
Yep.
Every time we talk baseball, I talk about the home run. He said, "Carroll, you've always got to get the last word." And I go, "No, I don't." He said, "I said, no, I don't."
Yeah.
You guys
All
know.
right.
Listen, great to see you guys,
Our
And you-
sponsors,
Same
Mike,
to you.
you're looking better too, Mike.
and great to see Psycho Killer.
Psycho killer.
And I want you to
Oh.
autograph this for me. I want you to autograph it for me.
all right. Our sponsors this week are Trust Bank and Elite Builders. We appreciate them, and we'll see you next week on Remembering Tuscola.